Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to my dear respected elders, brothers, sisters, and especially to our youngsters. Welcome back to our third session in our six-part mini-series. If you've been following along, you know that we've covered the basics of Ramadan and we have touched upon Ramadan in the West. So today's topic will be fairly light, but very, very important. We will be touching upon, food, diets, and lightly on fitness. Why? Well, Ramadan is all about a bunch of things, including fasting. But for us to be able to make the most of Ramadan, obviously, food is a huge component of that. But overall, as a reminder, the talks that we do, it's a talk are more or less to help us, understand how we can benefit from, having this time of, a time for us to train our spiritual discipline, for us to have a time of contemplation, as well as this enhanced connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So just as a recap, as to where we're at for those that are tuning in, hopefully you will make time to review the first two sessions that we've had. But for those that follow along, we had touched upon the basics of Ramadan in the West. Today's the session on diet, food, and fitness. And this Thursday, inshallah, we'll be talking about Ramadan, spirit of giving, and followed by our last two sessions, which will be on the last 10 nights, and the last one's going to be on renewed resolutions. If you recall, renewed resolutions similar to when a new year starts, it's a new you. Well, Ramadan, when Ramadan will finish, you want to ensure that all the good that you have developed over the time in Ramadan, we're able to continue that momentum going into the remaining months in the year, inshallah. So with that, we'll jump right into just doing a little recap as to what we've done. So Ramadan in the West, basics of Ramadan. We touched upon the components that make Ramadan. We talked about how it's a month of the Quran, the importance that it was revealed in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. We talked about building the connection with Quran, and not just keeping it as a book on the side, but actively, very proactively, at least trying to read a page a day, if not in English, at least in Arabic, at least one verse a day. We talked about Tarawih prayers, the volunteer prayers, taking some time. If you're not able to finish the Quran, which is at least twice a year, Tarawih is a great time for us to maximize on that. We talked about it's a time of giving, time of charity. It's smiling to a brother, smiling to your sister. It's an act of charity, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam encourages that as well. It was a time of increasing our good deeds, because everything is multiplied. We talked that it was a time of reflection, time for us to see improvements, but as well as with fasting, a month of forgiveness. We touched gently upon things that you should not do, things you should avoid while fasting, and we also talked about a topic that will come up in today's session is on who the fast is compulsory on and who is exempted. So one of the aspects of food is obviously allowing us to fast. So something that every healthy body should be doing, unless they're instructed otherwise. So that was everything summed up that we talked about in our first session, followed by the second session, Ramadan in the West, where we talked about the different types of challenges that we have to face while we're fasting, not just in the East, but in the West as well. We talked about sleeping patterns. We talked about foods and drink. We talked about when you have family and kids. We talked about challenges in school and work, and then we summed it up with the 4 B's. If you remember what the 4 B's are, the 4 B's were to be informed about your faith, be informed about what you do and why you do it, be proud and confident, and be able to explain how we do it, and all the other things that go associated with it. And last but not least, we talked about being vocal, If we're not going to be vocal, how will someone learn about what we're doing and come to appreciate what Ramadan is and accommodate us on being Muslims and what our needs are. So with that, let's dive into the topic of today. The topic of today is obviously food, right? I know this session is going to make some people feel the fast, hopefully not. But we basically see that food is actually it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves his creation so much that he has included in the Quran and through Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's examples of what type of foods we should eat and we should refrain from. So we can see that there's a lot of importance in food being placed right in the Quran and through the sunnahs of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And something to note that the best foods will give us both physical and spiritual benefits. It's something that's going to enhance us in what we do on a day-to-day, but also knowing that the worst foods will have the opposite effects. Something that's very crucial and critical for us to pay attention over here is, the good foods is going to enhance your spiritual and physical benefits, but the worst is actually going to do the opposite. So we should be very mindful that in this month we're asking for forgiveness, we're doing good deeds, and we're trying to maximize everything. But if you're not eating, if you're not putting the right food into our bodies, it actually can work against us. So with that, as Muslims, we are responsible for taking care of not just our spiritual, but our physical being, because this is an amana from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, something that he's going to ask us. And if we do not take care of it, if our physical health is something that's abused or neglected, we will be held accountable for that. Because if you look at the 5 pillars of Islam, you can see that of the 5 pillars, 3 pillars require us to be in good physical condition. So now you'll be thinking, what are the 3 pillars that we're talking about? The first one, obviously, is salah. It involves, a lot of physical movements, prostrating, kneeling, standing. You need to be in good physical health to be able to maximize your salah. So that's number 1. Number 2 is fasting. Remember, we talked about fasting is for a person of age that is in good physical condition. And if not, there's obviously rulings to that we won't dive into. But fasting, it can only be done if you have good physical health. And last but not least, and one of the most important ones, is Hajj. It is something that requires many days of physical exertion. If anyone has been blessed enough to have experienced Hajj, how difficult that journey could be, especially if in the warmer climate and everything. Hajj is definitely unlike any workout that you will ever do. SubhanAllah, both for your spirit and for your body. So the Sunnah way to go forward with this is to control how much we eat. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam disliked overeating, which we'll dive into. But first, we'll dive into what the Quran says. So Surah Al-A'raf, verse 31. Towards the second half of the verse, it mentions that eat and drink, but do not do that in excessive or be wasteful or extravagant. So this is not something that we're getting just health advice from from science. This is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's created science from the get-go within his book, directly through his word. So obviously this is something that we have to be super mindful of. There's a lot of weight placed on not being excessive, especially in the West. We tend to throw away a lot of food when there's so many people, like we mentioned, some people don't have the ability to choose to fast or not to fast because their state on a daily basis is so dire that they're forced to fast. So, something to take away from here is to eat light, but more or less not to be excessive, because that is something that, we are instructed to. And if we take that from the Quran, and then we take from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the Sunnah, he tells us to, portion your stomach into three bits. The first being, the 1/3 being for food. the 1/3 being for for water, and then the 1/3 being for air. So it's telling us that we don't want to overeat, because there's a lot of side effects and downfalls to overeating, something that we want to be super mindful of. So if you think about overeating, it basically you know leads to what does it lead to? It basically leads to like, let me put an example. Let's say suhoor starts, and or before suhoor, you're basically having a large meal. You stuff yourself because you basically want to be as full as possible so you don't feel hungry, and you have a heavy meal. So what happens? Let's think about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created our system. Right off the bat, our enzymes are going to get very busy digesting the food that we just ate. That's going to have a lot of energy is going to actually be spent on digesting that food. That energy that you wanted to keep reserved and to be spent during the day, right off the bat, is basically being spent on digesting that large amount of quantity of food that you had. So with everything that's happening, you also have acidity that's starting to build up in your body. So by middle of the day, you have this large bloated belly. And what starts happening when you do that, for those that have experienced like stuffing themselves, because I know I have. So before I it's anything, I obviously hold myself to it, because I've done that a lot over the years, and I've stopped, alhamdulillah. But what happens? Your belly starts rumbling, and you're hungry again. So it kind of defeats the purpose of eating so much, and you're basically just rather than getting a positive, you're getting you're basically doubling down on going against yourself. So an example that comes to mind for something like that would be when you're about to dive. So say you're going swimming and you're about to dive, into the water. You hold your breath, so you breathe in as much air as possible. So when you dive into the water and you're swimming, say like you want to be whatever you're doing, you're diving in a swimming pool or on the sea, what have you. You want to be able to maximize the amount of oxygen that you have, so you can maintain a longer duration of time under the water. Now, that exact same example cannot be replicated for food, because it actually does the exact opposite. You can't stuff yourself and say by 7 or 8 p.m., inshallah, I would be good. It works really, really differently, because you're prone to get it's a secret, not so much of a secret, but something good to know is you're likely to get hungrier if you stuff yourself versus if you you ate lighter. So another thing would be like, if you want to pray tarawih. Oh, actually, you know what? This is something that a good time to share. If you're trying to read tarawih, you want to have the energy. You want to have the ability to focus on what is being read. You really want to kind of focus, dial into the whole experience, that amazing experience, especially for qiyam. Qiyam obviously is unlike anything else, but getting back to the point, and you eat light, it allows you to enjoy that experience so much more. Because I can share a personal story, with eating a large quantity. I went to a particular masajid, and Allah forgive us all. People ate in large quantities. We had iftar. They had food which was high in oil and spices, and was a form of curry that I'm not going to mention. But what ended up happening is, after everyone ate, they basically ate light. They went, prayed Maghrib. They came back. They stuffed themselves. And then when it came to Isha and Tarawih, everyone was holding their bellies, and then they were releasing them in the masjid, the fragrance through their mouth. And it was a very difficult experience, because you are trying to pray with everyone on the side. It's just something. It's a bad practice. We should be very respectful, not just to ourselves but to those around us. You want to avoid eating types of food that are going to lead to such scenarios. We obviously want to make sure that we're making it pleasant for everyone else, including for ourselves. So just a light story that I remember when this is probably 6-7 years ago, in one of the masajids. So moving on from there, I'd say this is a time where, if you have a pen and paper, I want you to note this down. I'm going to give a few key terms before we dive into some foods that you should eat, that you shouldn't eat. We'll talk about some foods that you should keep on your keep on the menu for suhoor and for iftar before we dive into what fitness is. So I'll dive into it, but hopefully you have something to take notes on. So some key terms that you should note down, because it's going to be truly beneficial. You can Google it at a later point. We won't do a very deep dive into each one of these, but at least to kind of give a high level overview, so that when you're making your iftar and when you're making suhoor for the family, you'll be mindful of this and you can look into it. So the first one is called the complex carbohydrate, something that we'll touch upon in a couple of seconds. So one would be complex carbs, CARBS. So complex carbs are there. High fiber food, so that's another one. So high fiber, note that one down. Healthy fats, so there's good fats and bad fats. If anyone says fats are bad, they're wrong. I can give you this something you can look up. If you're stranded in a jungle and all you had was a rabbit to eat, because there's an abundance of rabbit, because they're high in fat, so high in protein, low in fat, you won't survive long, even though you have sustenance, because fat are very important. So going back to the point, we talked about complex carbs, note that down. We talked about high fiber foods, note that down. Healthy fats, super important. So note that down. Ensuring that we have protein-rich food, vitamin and calcium-rich food, high water content, vegetables and fruits, because we're dehydrated the whole day. We want to ensure that we have we're eating things that are high in water content. And also for those working out and whatnot, ensure that you're looking into getting yourself fast absorbing carbs and fast absorbing proteins. So when you go and get, say, protein shakes, even those that are not working out but just want to buy some protein shakes, there's like slow absorbing and there's fast absorbing. So if we're going to hit the gym, good to have fast absorbing proteins in place. So a quick recap: carbs, complex carbs, high fiber foods, healthy fats, protein-rich foods, vitamin, calcium-rich foods, high water content, and fast-absorbing carbs and proteins. So with that, looking at suhoor, so the time where we need to ensure that everything is ready for us to start our fast, you want to indulge in food that's going to give you long-lasting energy throughout the day. You don't want something that's going to just be fast-absorbing and you're hungry in a couple of hours. I mean, that's going to be detrimental, especially if you have to go to school or you're working, what have you. You're going to be very hungry. So food that provide us long-lasting energies are what we call complex carbohydrates and high fiber foods. So foods that are rich but release this energy very slowly through the day. So some examples of that could be oats, could be beans, rice. So you can incorporate that into your diet. I would highly advise in the morning to have oats, have some berries in there, add some milk in there, because milk, obviously you're looking at the vitamin calcium rich. You can add some milk or some yogurt with your oatmeals, and that could be a very good meal. Add some honey on top of it, natural sugars, and you're good to go. High fiber foods, going back to that. So fibers help us with digestion. So if you're having digestion problems, it could be because you're missing fiber out of your diet. So fruits and vegetables are great sources of fiber, high fiber. But I'm gonna just note on that for a second, because the thought just came to my mind. So we're saying fruits, they're great. We should include that. The first thought that came to mind was fruit charts. Fruit charts are great, so most of us are doing a good job. But I'm gonna hold you there. Fruit charts are great, but you should really avoid adding, because I've seen this, I've done this, being part of this. So avoiding putting lots of spoons of sugar, processed sugar, into a fruit chart to make it sweeter. Don't do that. That's not good, especially when your body has starved, or especially when you are about to start a fast. You want to avoid doing that. That's one. Two, adding juices, either artificial juices, more or less. You don't want to add that to something that's natural. You want to benefit from the natural fruit. So those are two things I just wanted to add there. Be super mindful if you're doing it. Inshallah, make an effort of avoiding that. It is obviously, it makes the food chart amazing, but obviously we have an amana, which is our body, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's be mindful of that. Look into having sources of protein-rich lean food like chicken in there. Definitely is going to give us, that much needed, proteins, because obviously we want to ensure that, that goes into our body and we don't have muscle atrophy. Muscle atrophy is, when our muscles are decreasing because we're not using them throughout the day. And last but not least, hydration is important. Water is great, but besides water, look into getting fluids with vitamins, with electrolytes, getting some fresh juices. And one thing I would say, perhaps not to indulge too much is in caffeine, because here we're talking about hydration. Too much caffeine leads to dehydration. So when you're about to start your fast, that's not something you want to do. You don't want to start your day dehydrated, because that's going to affect your overall performance, during the day. So with that, let's do a quick recap of suhoor, from all the things we talked about, and what we mentioned about all the different key terms to know. So we want to eat protein rich, which could be like eggs, chicken. If you want to reduce your calories, maybe perhaps look into egg whites instead of getting the egg with the egg yolk. It's great. Eating fiber rich food could be like lentils, beans, avocados, which is also it's a very good source of healthy fats, and fruits. Vitamin and calcium rich, it could be like yogurt, cheese, milk. I personally love to have Greek yogurt with some nuts and some honey on top of it. It really fills me up. It's high in proteins. It has all my healthy fibers and vitamins mixed into it. It's honestly, especially if you're running late and you need to fix up something, go and buy yourself some Greek yogurts, some nuts, and some honey, and I can guarantee that you will not feel hungry throughout the day. Things you want to avoid during suhoor: you want to avoid things that are like high refined sugar. You had some donuts, you had some sweets, you had some baklava, some gulab jamun left from like last night's iftar, or had an iftar party. Don't touch that during suhoor. You're doing yourself a big disservice. Do not touch any pastries or croissants. There's a lot of butter. There's a lot of salt. It's really going to make you thirsty. So avoiding anything salty. Avoid pickles. Avoid chips. Any soya sauce. Any salted nuts. You don't want to eat all that salt. And again, like I mentioned, caffeine, something you want to stay away from, because we're talking all about staying hydrated. But if you're basically drinking coffee, it kind of does a disservice to you. So that's suhoor for you. Things that we want to be mindful for suhoor. But we're about to get to iftar. All right, with iftar we have about an hour and a few minutes before iftar happens. So with iftar, before we dive into iftar, I did want to mention something, because I've had some conversations with some of our youth, and noticed that dates usually not something that is top of mind, especially for those that are either in college, university, far from parents. I do want to, this is a very small set but of people. I know most of us, alhamdulillah, we incorporate dates into opening our fast. But as a reminder to those that don't, or perhaps may not have a liking to dates, first of all, it's sunnah to have dates, but there's also loads of benefits of having dates as a first thing. Eating a date, doing your dua, and then drinking water. There's tons of benefits. One of them is it's easy to digest and it's sweet, right? Second is it decreases the feeling of hunger, so it basically prevents you from overeating. So if you had 2 or 3 days to start your fast and your body has been hungry all day, you're going to be prevented from diving in and stuffing yourself and then not feeling good and not being able to pray Maghrib, Isha, or especially Tarawih, your volunteer prayers. The dates really help us, prepare our stomach to intake food to receive food after the entire day, the stomach lining, etc. And it's very rich in sugar and energy, so it's restoring a lot of nutrients back into your body. And the beauty of dates, subhanallah, is it does not spike your blood sugar levels. If there's doctors out there, please keep me corrected, but from my research, I did not find that dates spike your blood sugar. So, and last but not least, we talked about having a fiber rich diet. Dates help you prevent constipation as a result of eating at such times. So there's a lot of benefits, a lot of barakah in eating dates. So please make sure that you incorporate dates into your diet. And then with that, you also want to have food that is very rich in potassium. So the reason for that is because potassium will give us important nutrients that are going to help with having sound functioning internals, our internal system. So obviously, that is very key for us to be alive and healthy. They also help us in balancing electrolytes and maintaining levels of fluids within our body. So some potassium rich foods would be like, if when you go to the grocery store, you find some dark leafy greens, you can find yourself mushrooms. So with mushrooms, if you find portobello mushrooms, these are these bigger mushrooms. For those that don't know, they're amazing to have like a vegetarian burger. It's amazing. If you find portobello mushroom, do look that up. So mushrooms are there, bananas, beans, yogurts, and potatoes. So, dark leafy greens, mushrooms, bananas, beans, yogurts, and potatoes. These are high in potassium. So these are great to have within your iftar. You want to have tons of fluids and you want to have nuts, because we talked about nuts are really good. We'll talk a little bit quickly into what each thing would be, because I know we're basically on the 26-minute mark. What you want to avoid for iftar, I've seen that. I don't know why, especially with kids, parents. If this is in your fridge, I'm telling this right now, it's on you. Get rid of this. Any soda or sugar dominated drinks, when you go and get fruit punches, look into the back. If it's unnatural, if it's not 100% natural and it's high in sugar, take that, dump it. You're not going to, in my eyes, I don't think you're going to get sawab in feeding this to the poor, because it's not good stuff. In essence, no one should be making that. It's horrible. And avoid fried food the moment you open iftar. Samosas are amazing, but wait it out. Start off your fast gently, with dates, with some yogurt, with some fruits, with some, good food, and slowly get into go pray maghrib, let your body settle in, drink some fluids, and then you want to have some samosas, okay, have it. But even with that, try avoiding fried samosas. Very hard. I'm guilty. I know, once in a while I do have it, but try to avoid that. It's good for you. So with that, let's kind of dive into a little bit more on the type of foods you can have. So we gently talked about a very light meal plan of suhoor and iftar. So some foods, again, please take notes of this. It's very healthy. Very very healthy. I'm getting hungry myself now. Very important. Would be like oatmeals. Talked about oatmeals. It keeps you going all day. Outside of Ramadan, I eat it a lot. I incorporate it into my workout, diet. It's great. It's a great source of vitamin B. Vitamin B is pretty much needed for us, for our bodies. It's needed to convert food into energy. So when you have this, especially as suhoor, you're converting that food into energy, and that energy is something that we'll need throughout the day. So oatmeals are amazing. If you don't have oatmeals, please go get yourself oatmeals. You won't regret it. You'll thank me for that. You want to have vegetables like spinach. We see Popeye to the kids. You see Popeye the Sailor Man and whatnot. Spinach is amazing. It's high in iron, and iron basically, it helps us transport oxygen around the body, and is needed for production of energy. So here you have oatmeals that's helping you converting that food into energy. Then you have spinach that's helping transport that oxygen around the body, and it's also needed for producing energy. So you can see the importance. Sweet potatoes, they're a great source of what we mentioned before, complex carbs, because they have iron, they have magnesium, but they also have vitamin C. Sweet potatoes are very tasty. I'd say if you don't have a acti fryer or a dry, acti fryer, something that kind of uses heat to cook, get that. Grab yourself some sweet potatoes. You can't go wrong, because vitamin C is needed for transporting fats into cell, so it could be used for the body to produce energy, so energy production. So talk oatmeals, vegetables like spinach, sweet potatoes, eggs. Eggs are like amazing. They're like a complete protein. It contains all the essential amino acids, B vitamins, vitamin D, which obviously is super important. Lack of vitamin D can result in muscle fatigue. It can result in low mood. So vitamin D is also super important. Fruits, natural sugars, not chocolates, not candies, but fruits that give us natural sugar. Reason being is natural sugars, they get quickly absorbed into our bloodstream. And with fruits, they're also high fiber. They have vitamins and antioxidants. So overall, it's like a win-win situation. You want to ensure that, this is part of your diet. You also want to have like lean meats, like you want to have chicken. You want to stay away from like having a steak. Steaks are amazing. Don't take me wrong. I love steaks. If I get any chance outside of Ramadan to have steak, I'll have it. But during Ramadan, stay away from that. Have like lean meat without fats, fat trimmings. So like chicken breasts are great to have. Fish like salmons and sardines, they're absolutely excellent in being a source of B vitamins, essential fats and vitamin D. Like I mentioned, you want to incorporate as much vitamin D, especially like in colder climates. You don't have the sun, muscle fatigue, low energy, low mood. Yogurt, like we mentioned, they contain live bacteria, and live bacteria help us regulate our immune system. Right, with COVID and everything else, we need to make sure that we have a really strong immune system, and we're fasting throughout the day, and we're interacting with everyone. And COVID's still is it's still around to an extent. We want to ensure that our immune system is strong, so we're having that. We want to improve our digestion. We don't want to feel constipated. We don't want to have stomach aches throughout the day, and we want to improve our mood. The last thing you want to do is say "Assalamu alaikum" to someone and they give you a grumpy face, and you're like, "Whoa, they're not having caffeine, and now they're in a grumpy mood. What's up?" Right? So obviously, you don't want to be that person either. So the most you can do is strive with yourself first, and inshallah, everyone else can also get along with that. So with yogurt, I'd say it's not just your regular yogurt. You can like mix around with stuff like cottage cheese, Greek yogurt. Look into them. Tons of recipes in there that you can incorporate, easy to eat. Nuts and seeds. So great source of proteins. They're also healthy fats. So, for example, if you're going to sleep, have a few almonds before you go to sleep, or have an avocado, on brown bread, or, have some, when it comes to nuts, like, maybe some peanut butter, right? It's healthy fats. When you're going to sleep, your body needs healthy fats, so it does not eat into your proteins. You want to ensure that your muscles stay, maintain, you don't lose on muscles. So incorporate that. They're great. So nuts and seeds, they're great minerals. They're involved in energy production. So think like magnesium and zinc. So when you say zinc is needed for the production of hormones, right? And the production of hormones, and they also affect our energy and our mood. So you want to be in a good mood. You want to be eating healthy. You want to be mindful of those things. So these are some of the foods that you should have on the menu. If you're going grocery shopping, today's Tuesday, so you have to go grocery shopping later on. These are some of the foods that you basically, if not in the fridge, think about adding them. So some snack options, because we're munching around, we're going to Tarawih, we're trying to like incorporate some workouts in between. So some personal list that I had is like having like a protein bar, having a banana or an apple or some kind of fresh food with you. I'd say after a couple of rakahs, like after 4 tarawihs, you have yourself a banana and chug some water. Or after 8, you have yourself a little yogurt on the side with some nuts and whatnot. Maybe you make yourself a fruit smoothie when you go, because even though you're praying, I would highly recommend having some of these snacks with you. So you kind of have small meals during the Tarawih and any additional volunteer prayers that you're doing. Having whole grain bagels or crackers, having a peanut butter sandwich, or some kind of like sports drink, like something that has like some electrolytes in them. So these are some types of snacks you can have, the kind of foods that you should be having. So we'll gently touch upon some foods that you should avoid, given that you were kind of running late on time now. So deep fried foods. You need to stay away from deep fried foods, period. Overall, especially in Ramadan, you do not want to touch any deep fried food, because it's doing injustice to you. Deep fried foods, like anything fried, samosas, any fried chicken, any fried spring rolls, chips, what have you, just stay away from that. So anything fried, stay away from it. Try to bake as much as you can, to compensate, or like to just remove yourself from, like, deep frying. So that's one. So number two would be anything that's high sugar and high fat food. You want to avoid, like, uh, baklava. I love baklava, but you can avoid eating baklava. Avoid eating gulab jamuns. Reason being is because they're high calories. They're very high in calories, but they're very poor in nutrition value. You don't want to bulk up on food that has very poor nutrition value, because you're not really getting much in return. High fat cooked food. So anything that's like oily curries, greasy pastries, they're amazing. Anytime we get, like, iftar sent over, there's always these deep fried like pastries. I love them, but honestly, you need to stay away from them. Like we mentioned, they're not doing justice to you, not doing justice to your fast. You want to avoid anything high salt. Again, I'm salt is one of my weak points, so I'm guilty of it. So avoid eating pastries, any deli meat like pastrami's that are like high in salt content. You want to hydrate yourself, and you don't want to feel too salty, because sodium can dehydrate your body, and it affects your ability of absorbing fluids. So that's not something we want. And last but not least, caffeine. Caffeine can cause your body to lose fluids by having you go to the restroom throughout the day. You want to retain the fluids in your body as much as you can. So, again, salt and high salt and caffeine kind of works against you. But if you're having caffeine after iftar, that's something, because you're able to that you drink water. That's something that would be good for you. So with that, going on the point of hydration, you need to drink a lot of water. All right. I've seen a lot of people drink chai or coffee or other things instead of water. Like, water is absolutely essential. So I was diving in and looking into some research. uh you know I was looking that just 3 to 4% dehydration can significantly affect your performance on a day-to-day basis, especially in the gym. Just 3 to 4% of dehydration. So if you're eating salty food, you're drinking a lot of caffeine, and you're not drinking enough fluids throughout the day, and you're facing a dehydration, you're going to notice a difference. So you want to avoid that. If you're working out, you need to have like adequate recovery time. And if you're not drinking a lot of water, you're going to end up with muscle cramps. You will not be able to really, like, recover properly. And whatever muscles you've gained, you're going to end up losing that, because one way or another, you'll end up injured or tired and not having enough energy to, work out. So what I would suggest, from my opinion, would be, have 2/3 of your body's weight in water throughout the day. So if you are, say, 180 pounds, you're going to be 180 pounds, or 2/3. I'm live. Would be like 120 ounces of water, if I'm not mistaken. So if 2/3 of your body, so 180 pounds, 120 ounces would be the water you would take in. So, whatever your body weight is, do the math. 2/3 of that, drink that throughout the day. Don't drink that in one sitting, because you basically want to ensure that your body retains the water and doesn't simply expel that out. So far we've covered everything on the type of foods you can eat, the types of food that you should not eat, a light meal plan for suhoor, light meal plan for iftar. So with that, as we close off, let's quickly talk about the types of workouts we can do, because fitness is coming in, right? So for those that have not been working out and are looking to work out, I would say don't do anything net new. Don't do anything different than what your body is used to. If you haven't been worked out, then maintain light workouts, maintain some walking after iftar or after tarawih, incorporate a little bit aerobics into your thing, but don't do something significantly different, because your body is only going to, at best, be able to maintain or reduce, whatever you're doing. So there's three options usually when you're working out. The first one, it would be bulking. You're trying to gain a lot of weight. You're trying to gain a lot of muscles. I personally, I've played, semi-professional soccer for Toronto and a few cities. So I'm very accustomed to bulking. I've also played a rep level rugby, which is a very physical sport. So I'm very familiar with gaining a lot of weight. So from my personal experience, obviously, consult professionals, fitness professionals in this, and your doctors. But in my humble opinion, bulking is not something that I recommend doing. Reason being is because you only have so much time to eat. The window of eating is so limited. If you're trying to bulk, you're trying to eat over 3,000 or 3,200 calories within that time period. I think that's a lot. And if you want to eat healthy calories and build muscles, it's not really doable. And if you're able to do it, subhanAllah, you have the genes power to you. But I personally feel bulking is not the option. What I feel is the two options that you can look into is cutting, and cutting means losing weight, or maintaining that. Because if you're trying to bulk, you're eating all that food, you're basically working out, you're going to be too exhausted to work like in that same capacity. You won't be able to maintain it, and when you're exhausted and you don't recover, you're going to get injured, and you're not going to be able to maximize your fast. So when you're cutting, you're consuming less food, which is what you should be doing. One of the barakas of Ramadan is eat less, focus more on your prayers. So according to a lot of research, fasting is one of the most effective ways of losing weight. So if you're incorporating the foods that we talked about today, and you're removing the foods that we said to avoid, you're actually going to lose weight. You're going to lose weight in a healthy manner. You're going to have more energy because your body is not carrying all that excessive weight, and it's basically digesting healthy food faster, which is going to allow you to have energy for a longer duration of time. So you're able to cut, or you're able to maintain wherever you're at. So if you're hitting the gym, you're doing a lot of cardio, you're able to easily maintain. So you're only eating enough to maintain your body weight, something that your body is used to. So it's not going into shock. It's not doing something net new at a time where your body's already being exerted under so much pressure, when you're fasting. So in short, I'd say avoid bulking, especially to our youth. Look into maintaining your body weight, or losing weight. Those two things can actually be effectively done. But again, do consult your medical professionals and your doctors, because in that, obviously, each body is different. Your needs and requirements are different. Your health conditions are different. So whatever is mentioned here is obviously a very generic, high level overview of things you basically want to do. So with that, I'd say working on Ramadan in general is very challenging. So I can't prescribe a particular time, nor am I a health professional. I do take care of my health a lot, and I have been playing sports somewhat professionally in the past. But this is something you'll have to kind of fine tune based on how your body reacts. So I personally prefer working out right after Maghrib, before Isha, a 30-minute window to do some cardio and some light weight training, or after Tarawih. You basically have enough time to work out, for your body to rest, for you to replenish your body with some fluids, food, and then also it gives you enough time before suhoor to eat a little bit more, and start your day from that sense. So that would be what I would say. Would be the perfect times, but obviously see how your body is, and what works best. So with that, we're in the 40-minute mark. Inshallah, let's wrap up. Jazakallah khair for those that have stuck around. Again, when I wrap up by saying, Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed us to enjoy another Ramadan, to have the ability for us to have this conversation, for me to deliver this, and for our audience to listen to that. So those that have not been able to enjoy this Ramadan, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them a Jannah, and inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also gives us Jannah. We also make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us by taking our soul in the time of Ramadan, during the last 10 nights, in a good state, because the gates of Jahannam are closed. So what better time to go to Ramadan? And if since we have witnessed Ramadan, it is a favor upon us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Make the most of it. We will be asked, because we're in this competition of life where everyone is rushing to attain wealth, attain success, all these physical things, but we forget that the greatest competition is a competition of attaining Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure, because when we attain Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure, we are going to attain Jannah, because you can only attain Jannah through the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in this time of the month, let's increase our volunteer prayers, our recitation of Quran, our acts of giving, which is charity, which is going to be, inshallah, our next topic. And and learning and teaching Islam, as well as asking for tawbah, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness, because every single day is an opportunity for us to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us, and for us to convert all our shortcomings into hasanats, into good deeds. And with that, I would like to ask for everyone's permission, inshallah, till we meet again next Thursday, exact same time, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be talking about all the things that come with the act of giving. So with that, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Enjoy your iftar, and keep us in your du'as.